24.
That's big.
So yeah, then I was head chef of a 1 Michelin-starred restaurant with 4 rosettes, and we had 18 chefs when I was there. My phone went off, and it was Alan. I was in the kitchen at the toll booth, and everyone was like, shh. He's like, right, son. He's like, hey, you want a job? So I haven't got any qualifications as a chef, theoretically. I don't have anything. But she was rude to me. Even to today, I would have said the same thing back. Yeah. And she was like, you'll never make it. You're not committed, and you're throwing away your education just because you think working on weekends pretending to be a chef. There's about 5 modern British grills now in London, and we were the kind of first one to do it, which I'm super proud of, really.
Yeah.
He's never ready to be a head chef, but I was already 2.5 years a head chef of a 1-star and run an amazing restaurant with a great team.
Tom, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Mate, absolute pleasure. How has the start of summer been treating you?
It's good. So, yeah, getting into August now, which is going to be... It is a bit of a quiet month, really, for London and hospitality as well. So we're just trying to keep momentum, keep positive, and try and cook for as many guests as we can, theoretically.
Well, look, we're going to talk a lot about your career today, and also what you're doing at the moment, which is obviously being at the Dorchester. But before we get to that, I wanted to ask you the first question of the day, which is the younger Tom, the baby Tom.
Yeah.
Were you the stereotypical kind of kid cooking from age 5, trying to learn how to cook, cooking with your mum, your dad, whatever it might be? What was baby Tom like?
No, there's no romantic story behind it. I've been on live TV and moaned about my mum's cooking many times, which she always hates. So no, there's not a romantic side to it, really. It just kind of happened. I baked a brownie once with a friend of my mum's. And then when you start doing work experience in year 10, which they don't do anymore, and I think it's such a shame.
Do they not?
No, they don't do it.
They don't do work experience?
No, schools do it anymore.
That's how I started my business, is because I did like a lighting thing, so I just got into like cameras and tech, and that's how it started. They don't do that anymore.
They don't do it anymore, which I think's crazy, really, because if you were like me, I wasn't academic, dyslexic, didn't enjoy sitting down for very long, didn't enjoy school. The only thing for school for me was seeing my friends. Yeah. But for me, it was about trying to make money. That's what I was installed in me. Mum and Dad were hard workers, and that's what we did. So I had a paper round. And then, and then my mum was like, well, if you like this cooking, why don't you go to this little restaurant, which I never heard of before, called the Toll Booth. Even it's only 15 minutes away from where I'm from, but I'm from a council estate, so we never went to the Suffolk way of life.
But was it a big part of your life when you were younger at all, in terms of like eating out, anything like that? Nothing. So then where did, I guess obviously the placement you did when you were about 15, right? Yeah. That happened. But was it just purely because you had that one experience, you're like, I'm just going to go see what this is about?
Yeah, well, just because I baked a brownie, really. I think that was it, and then I went to see it. But for me, there isn't a romantic story about food. It's not like I got a French nana and we were going to France every summer and baking fresh bread and nothing at all. Food was a fuel, Mum was in the NHS.
Oh, wow.
Dad was a worker as well, and she used to get home she was a matron, so she used to get home at 7 o'clock every night and make a spag bowl in 10 minutes.
And that was it.
The food was fuel,
Amazing. So you walked into a restaurant at 15?
Yeah.
Tell me about that first day. Do you remember it?
Yeah, no, I do. Yeah, the chef at there, a guy called Ian Rhodes, when I had the interview before, he told me straight, and I guess he must have realised I was a bit cocky, still a bit cocky now, but not in an arrogant way, and I wasn't naughty. I never really got expelled from school or something. I always knew the difference between right and wrong, which my parents taught me. But he just kind of said, if you want to do this is big boy league now. Do you know what I mean? You need to knuckle down. You're not at school. Yeah, and that was quickly kind of knocked out of me in a nice way.
And what was your first role in the kitchen?
I can't remember. Well, I was on the larder. Just on the larder section, plating starters and stuff. And I met some amazing friends from there who I lived in with Jack. Me and him moved to London with each other later on in the story and lived with each other for 9 years in London. But yeah, just cooking. And then I was finishing school, so I used to work Friday nights, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. And then and I used to do a paper round Monday to Friday as well. And then Ian said, you're leaving school. Do you want to go to college, or do you want to come full-time here and I'll train you? So I was like, yeah, I'll come here. I think the salary was 10 grand. I thought I was rich. So day after I left school, I started full-time. Missed out on a few GCSE exams because I wasn't bothered. But for me, it wasn't about... The food's amazing. I love food, don't get me wrong. now the older you get, the more you love food kind of things, you get a better understanding of it. For me, it was the camaraderie. My dad was in the army, and he always says it's quite similar to that.
Right.
Because you feel like it's your second family, you know?
Yeah.
My family at the Dorchester is my team.
Yeah.
You know, and you feel when you work with them, you're in it, and it's... All I ever say to my team now is the most important person in the whole restaurant is the guest.
Yeah.
It's not me with my name on the door. Sadly, it's not them. The guests are the most important, you know? Yeah. And that I just love that mentality. There's something about... The reason why we're chefs and the reason why people do hospitality is because we enjoy making people happy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, 100%. I mean, you see that in some of the greats and also some of the people that just have been around for a long time. They're the ones that have always made people happy and given that experience. And it's not just about what's on the plate, it's everything else.
No, yeah,
which is amazing. So that those early days just sticking there, kind of 15, 16, 17, you've left kind of the education and the academics behind you. Like, your friends around you, people that are close to you, sounds like your parents were incredibly supportive, but was anyone kind of going like, oh, you're not doing the stereotypical college and development piece? Was there any of that, of a little bit of like, what are you up to? This isn't going to work out?
A maths teacher who I think's sadly not with us anymore, but I remember her saying to me, you'll never make it as a chef. It was kind of like, have you ever seen the Notorious B.I.G. film? When the teacher says to Notorious that he's going to become a binman, that's all he's good for, and he works out a bit and makes more money than a teacher.
Yeah.
And I remember I must have said something a bit cocky back, but she was rude to me. Even to today, I would have said the same thing back. Yeah. And she was like, you'll never make it, you're not committed, and you're throwing away your education just because you think working on weekend pretending to be a chef. And she was quite rude what she said. I remember everyone looked at me and I said something like, listen, what did I say? I didn't mean this in an arrogant way. I was like, by the time I'm your age, I'll make sure I'm making more than you, or something. I said something back, and
something as a 15-year-old
me out. I remember, something like 15-year-old would say, and I'm sure she told me a lesson. But things like that, they spear me on, you know.
Yeah,
I remember being like, well, I've got to prove her wrong now.
It's amazing how much drive that can give you. I've had a few of those in my career, and I remember it was so. Obviously, I'm now not a singer, but I remember being in like the school choir when I was like 6. And someone was like, I got kicked out because I couldn't sing. And instead of being like, you're not good enough, but if you really want to keep trying, it's like, you're not good enough, get out. And it's something that just sets a fire on some people to be like, the pettiness of proving someone wrong is actually really powerful.
Yeah, no, it is.
But it's also like one of those things where it can crumble people, right? Like, particularly from a early age, you can go like, okay, you're right. You know, I'm just gonna kind of willow away, and that can be difficult. But those first couple of years, was there something about the restaurant world? I know you mentioned the kind of like the team and being around people, but like the food itself, were you starting to get drawn towards, I guess, the art of food?
To be honest, not really. I think I only really got that real passion when you kind of moved to London. But I did have a passion for it. I don't know, really. For me, it was all about the teamwork, making guests happy. Yeah, there was a love for food, but when I moved to London, I got more of a love for food. Got you? Because I actually you really homed in on your own chefing skills. You come to London to work with the great chefs, you know, that's what I did. And I guess that's it, really.
Fair enough. We'll get on to moving to London. But you were there for 4 years, your first place?
4 years, yeah. So basically it was like my college. So instead of going to college, I did that. I haven't got any qualifications as a chef, theoretically. Wow. I don't have anything, which is a bit mad.
Because what do most chefs normally have, for those that don't know? They normally there's a college route, right?
You would go to college and you do MVQ level 1, MVQ level 2,
right,
and level 3. So normally you do 3 years. And nowadays I work really closely with colleges.
Right.
Because it's super important, and we need to work closely with colleges because we need to keep promoting the hospitality industries. It's the third biggest industry in the country.
Yeah, especially now when it's not many people in it and people have left.
Yeah,
which we'll get on to. Yeah. So you've got none of that?
Nothing, no. I've got 4 C's. Nice. 4 GCSE C's.
I've got pretty much the same, so we're doing all right.
D's.
How important do you, looking back now from where you're at, that first placement for young chefs or people in the hospitality world, like that first restaurant, cafe, bar, grill, whatever you want to call it, that first experience that people have, how important do you think that is for young chefs?
I think it's important in any industry, really, because it's, like we just said, I was an academic, you know, all of that stuff. And by working in the kitchen, and you kind of gives you structure, you know, it gives you responsibility, structure in your life, which I think is super important. And maybe a lot of younger people feel like they don't have that, maybe with their parents, everyone, but maybe a lot of people don't have a lot of structure and kind of an authority as well. You know, there's an order, there's a hierarchy in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And so for some people, that's a big kind of shock. I look at some chefs, the young chefs who come in now, and they just don't understand, you know. But I was always taught. My mum was like, never call him mate, never call him. Yeah.
Did you, I guess for you, you didn't know any of that stuff in the
but you don't. But they don't teach you that at school, do they? You know, they don't.
Yeah.
Didn't even teach you how to really write a letter at school. For me, maybe I didn't go to the best school, but there's a lot of things I always think we should be teaching the younger generation.
Yeah.
Just manners, P's and Q's.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we had a student the other day and he's 16. He came in the kitchen, so I let him come for a few days and he just kept calling me mate. Now, it's okay. I'm only 32, so I'm not going to get offended by it. But if something in my head was like, cool, my mum would kill me. Yeah. If she heard me go into a potential employer and go, you're right, mate. Yeah,
it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's not always meant in a malicious way.
No.
But it's not the right way. And it's also like, it's great to know that you recognise that and didn't just pull them up. But there are a lot of people in the industry who that would have gone down very badly.
Yeah.
It's hard to know that without
someone saying it.
It's actually what the education needs to be in some capacity, which is really difficult. So you were there for 4 years and then you decided to leave.
Yeah. So
why did you decide to leave?
Pretty much all of my mates started going to uni.
Right.
And then I was stuck.
You're not 18, 19?
I was 18, 19. 18 I was. And then I was, I'm stuck in living at home. All my mates had gone to uni, so I used to drive up to Lincoln every Sunday night where my best mate Sean was, and we used to drive up there in my Ford Fiesta. I used to go up there and party and all that stuff. But there was like, I need to do something. Because I remember my mum said something to me when I was younger and it kind of stuck with me, and she's completely right. And I said it to her the other day, actually. I was like, Mum, I feel like I'm working my arse off here. Yeah. And she was like, it's good. I was like, well, all my mates are going out every Saturday night. I never had a proper Saturday night out because I was always working, you know.
Oh, God, yeah.
My 18th I worked. My 21st I worked. And now, yeah.
You were working on your 18th birthday?
My 30th was the first time I've ever taken a birthday off.
Wow.
Yeah. Christmases as well.
I've done a whole lot.
In how long I've been cooking? I'm 32, 16, 15 years. I had one Christmas off in the COVID Christmas.
So that is like I know that sounds like I'm making a meal about whatever the phrase is, like making a big deal about it, but like that's a big deal, like especially when you're young, like not doing anything on your 18th, just being in the kitchen. But is that quite normal?
Sadly, it is. But I remember her saying to me, "You either work your backside off now, and live life when you're better, live life when you're better off, kind of hopefully, in a lot of things, not just money, Because I remember having this jealous feel about all my mates who were going out and partying and living an 18-year-old life. Yeah. But I was obviously more not mature because I wanted it. I don't know what it is. I was just realised I had a job. I was the only one with a job.
Yeah, you're just on a completely different path. I mean, I resonate with that a lot. I started a business and everyone went off to uni. Yeah. And you lose contact with them, and you know, for you it must be more difficult because you can't choose your hours. I could choose my hours a little bit more because I was creating and I was shooting and I had clients, whatever it might be. So it was a bit more flexible. I still didn't do anything about it, but like, you know, for you it was like I've got to do this thing because I've got to show commitment, because showing commitment in restaurants is really important, isn't it?
Super.
You know, if you're things like taking a day off and like sometimes it can be quite not a bad thing, but it's just different in that industry. Is that right?
It is. It's a tough industry, and I think that it's like any industry. If you want to make it, like I was just saying, my mum said to me, you work hard now, and you'll have your rewards later on in life. She said they're having their rewards now, but they're gonna have 90 grand's worth of uni debts, which all my mates now are like, I can't even pay them off or something.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So it is hard, and you do have to give up a lot. And I didn't have Rachel, my partner now, she's the first serious relationship we've ever had. Yeah. We've been together 6 years, you know. I was already head chef of a 1-star when we met each other.
Really?
Yeah, like there was no time for relationships. It's work. But if you want to make it, and you don't have to do it as quick I did, because I most probably did it too quick in hindsight, climb the ranks. But when you get them jobs, you get them positions, you need to prove yourself and prove.
And also make the most of the opportunity, right? That's a big thing. So 4 years in, you decide to leave. Why?
Yeah, just because they all went to uni and I was like, oh crap, I'm still stuck at home. So then me and my mate Jamie, who actually is now the head chef of the Toll Booth first restaurant.
Really?
Yeah.
So he's now the head chef.
He's now the head chef where we started. Amazing. Yeah. So cool. And we were like, let's do a ski season. Right. I never skied. We couldn't afford it as a family. Never skied in my life. It was the most middle class thing I remember. So 6 months later, I'm on the top of Teen. I'm on the top of the glacier, and I'm getting taken down by Pistairs because French national team were laughing at me. They were up there training for the Olympics,
and you're there just like, no.
I was like, what is these two things? So I did a ski season, but that taught me, actually looking back at it recently, which I've done a few of these podcasts, and we look back at what you do in your life, and actually my ski season taught me how to kind of be a manager, because we lived in the mayor's house. There was 42 of us.
As mayor?
Yeah, we lived in the mayor's house. There was 42 of us lived in there. I was in a room with 10 boys. Well, the whole hotel.
Oh, wow.
The whole hotel. So nannies, chefs, waiters, front reception, bar people, the whole lot. So I don't, this house, it moulded me. It must have trained me a lot because I met people I never, like we lived with someone from Wales. I lived with someone who was Scottish. I never really met these people in my life. And we were all so different, you know. Yeah. But actually, that's what kind of brought us all together. Don't get me wrong, it was a messy house. There was many stories from that season, as you can imagine. But it did because it taught me how to talk to people properly. Yeah. Which I don't always do right, like everyone else. We're not perfect. But I really understood how different people react to different... Because I always just been at the toll booth. You spoke to people like you talk to chefs. I remember my mates used to say to me, you talk to me like a chef all the time.
Really? Yeah. So you just got to... I guess you spent 4 years and you grew up in a kitchen.
You grew up in it, so yeah, and it becomes your mentality.
Yeah. So how long were you doing the ski season for?
We were there for 9 months. So we went there before there was snow, and then we left after the snow left. So we were in Teen and Val d'Isère, which was super cool. So I had my 19th birthday out there.
Birthdays work.
Which I worked.
Yeah. And then you came back and headed to London.
Went back to the toll booth.
So you went back there?
Went back there.
Right.
I did like another 6 months just because settling on my feet. And then I had 2 really amazing sous chefs at the time. One called Aaron Skerritt and one called, who runs a brunch place in kind of the Suffolk area. And one called Dave Wall, who runs the Unruly Pig. Right. Which is the best pub in the country.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
2 best mates of mine now, you know. We're like, I stayed at his the other week when I was cooking down in Ipswich.
Epic.
With his family and stuff. And they both said to me, look, Tom, you can be good at this, but if you want to be better, you need to go and move to London.
And at this point, were you realising what you actually wanted out of this? Because I guess you're kind of 4.5, 5 years sort of into the career, if you will.
Yeah.
Where are you, that's still really early, considering where you are an hour's way, which is insane, but... Were you trying to decide what the goal is? Are you that kind of individual? Were you just like, I just know I want to spend time here and figure out?
I hate that question when someone says, where will you be in the next 5 years?
Yeah.
Because you
just don't know.
You just don't know, and no one knows.
Yeah.
Things happen, and I'm a big believer things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
So Aaron said to me, so Aaron used to work at Boxwood, which was inside the Berkeley, and obviously Marcus Wareham was there, and Skez, Aaron Skerritt, they call him Skez, big West Ham fan. And he was like, there's a new chef opening in London and you'll love him. He's the boy. And his name was Alan Williams. So he was Marcus's head chef for 15 years, worked for Ramsay for all the years. Now he's like, I went back to be his head chef later on in the story, but he's like my chef dad, we talk to each other all the time. And literally that day, my phone went off and it was Alan. I was in the kitchen at the toll booth and everyone was like, shh.
Really?
He's like, right, son. He's like, hey, you want a job? Are you ready? And I was like, I think I am. Yeah.
And then that was it. You headed to London.
Went up to London, did a day.
That's really nice that the toll booth were backing you.
Yeah.
That's a really, because I don't know, I guess in my world of the industry I'm in, obviously people move around all the time, etc. But what you just mentioned there about everyone in the kitchen, really quieting down and backing you. And this is a big opportunity for him. We're going to lose him, but we want to see it happen. That's so nice.
But I'm like that now as well. One of my commies just left and he's gone to be a demi chef at the Fat Duck. You know what I mean? And I'm a true believer of if they leave and go somewhere better, that makes me look good and makes them look even better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so a big believer of that.
It's all of that kind of legacy stuff, there's a lot of that. Like you just mentioned, this chef, whatever, this chef, whatever. There's a lot of that, which is great. What was it like moving to London? I imagine for you being outside of London, then on a mountain in the slopes, and then moving into London, big adjustment.
I never really went to London. We didn't go much. I remember my mum used to bring me up quite a lot. We used to go see a theatre or something.
Yeah.
I remember my trial. I got the 5:15 train from Colchester to Liverpool Street.
Do you mind explaining what a trial? I know a trial is pretty easy to explain, but how this works in the industry.
So you would send a nice cover letter and a nice email.
Yeah.
Not calling them mate. And say, I'm really interested in coming to work for you. So I applied to 15 restaurants, I reckon.
Wow.
And I reckon about only 3 got back to me. So now I always make a point of all, even if at the moment I've got a full team, I don't need to employ any chefs, which I'm super lucky, but I know that's not going to be like that forever.
Of course.
But I always make a point of replying back to people because I remember that feeling and it isn't nice.
No.
You're applying for jobs and no one gets back to you. It's a bit like...
Oh. Even just to say thank you, but no.
Thank you, but not at the moment.
Yeah.
Please reach out in 6 months or something.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. So I'm on a train up to London and I started feeling really sick. And I'm really sick. And
what was making you feel so nervous?
I don't know. I think it must have been nervous, yeah. but it was a busy train. I was standing, you spend loads of money on a train and you can't even get a seat.
Yeah.
And it was all the bankers were on it. And I'm like, I'm going to throw up. And literally, it's coming into Liverpool. I'm like, I'm going to throw up. I need to get off this train. I'm going to throw up. I was hot as hell.
Yeah.
Like when you're like, I'm even going to faint. So what am I going to do? I literally got off the train as the doors open. I just threw up everywhere. And then no one stopped. No one asked me if I was all right. Everyone just pushed me. I remember I got pushed to like the other side of the platform. People were just moving me. I remember being like, this place is mad. You wouldn't get that back home.
No, you wouldn't.
Do you know what I mean? Someone would say, you're right, son.
Yeah. Everyone would be like, do you want to like, pat your back or something? Pat your back. Glass of water.
And even though it was only 2012, but you didn't have an iPhone. I didn't have Google Maps or anything. So literally, I must have got off the tube at Bond Street. And I was walking around Hanover Square. Not Hanover Square, sorry. Where was I? I was where Maze was. Yeah, the Grosvenor Square. I was where Maze was, which was Jason's restaurant for Gordon. And I was lost.
Really?
And I was lost. And I was looking at the time. It's the only thing I had on me. And I was an hour and 10 minutes late. And I was like, this is the worst way to start a trial in any trial. I'm late, even though I got a 5 o'clock.
Because lateness in hospitality is like a big problem, right? Like in terms of like you can't really be late.
Well, no, and honesty, for me, it's honesty kind of thing. So if my boys and girls are late now, I just say, just let me know. I don't care if you're hungover or what.
Just tell the truth.
Tell the truth and be honest. I'm a big thing about being honest, even if it's the truth hurts, but I'd rather know the truth than not. Yeah. And this lovely little lady just walked past me. I was literally walking around this square. Like, I knew Westbury was closed, but I didn't know where. And she was like, are you all right? And I was like, no. I must have been panicking. I'd just thrown up 3 hours before. Absolutely. I was like, I need to get to the Westbury. I don't know where it is. I'm late for a job trial. And she was like, where are you going? And I was like, Alan Williams at the Westbury. She was like, oh, I ate that last week. Lovely food. And she grabbed him by the hand, put my hat. When we linked arms, and she walked me inside the hotel and took me into the restaurant. So if it wasn't for her, I would have never...
You would be here today?
I most probably would be here today. I'll still be walking around the bloody square. And I walked in there and I was, when like you're shaking and you're late and it's that horrible feeling, And I walk in there and I see a big whole fish on the bench, which is a cod. But I didn't know at the time. I'd never really seen whole fish before. And the kind of first restaurants used to buy him filleted fish.
Yeah.
And he just popped his head round his corner and it was Alan. And he was like, I thought you weren't coming. And I was like, I'm late. And he was like, sit down. He sat me in the restaurant, gave me a good bottle of water. He's like, have some water. Don't worry, relax, calm down.
So nice.
Yeah. But I remember my heart was pumping, making an impression. You always want to make a good impression.
Of course.
He just really settled it down. He's like, don't worry, it's absolutely fine.
And so a trial lasts a day?
Yeah. All day on a trial.
And what was that like?
I never worked in a kitchen like that. The toll booth was like you'd 6 chefs, one on every section, where Alan was really pushing, and the head chef at the time, Richard, who's an amazing chef, he works in Japan now, and there was like 4 chefs in the larder section. There was like 3 chefs in the garnish
used to
section.
having one per section. Wow.
And there was a herb section on the larder where a chef would just do herbs,
which is like completely alien at that time.
Completely alien to me.
Yeah.
Back home, not saying anything bad about first jobs and stuff, and being in France and back in Essex, but it was just cooking. You're just like hardcore cooking,
Yeah.
You do 120 covers and it's just like
you go. Yeah.
This was like all about calm and structure and military, and you have to look the part, be the part.
Were you did you feel you struggled on that trial? Was it because obviously you've had like a hard morning.
Yeah.
You've had a simple morning. But I guess did you find a sense of calm once you're in and there's something you recognise about that environment, and suddenly you're like, okay, I'm more familiar with some of this. It's different. It's much bigger than what I'm used to, but actually there's comfort in the chaos sometimes.
Yeah.
Right?
Like Alan used to say to us, like, just slow down and take your time and do it right. Instead of like rushing to try and smash all your jobs so you can like get a break or something. It was all about slowing down, doing everything perfect. Everything was checked. So I never saw anything like that before. So every section, every chef used to get a big plate and used to put all their purees, all their homemade cheeses or whatever it is, and that would get checked by him and Alan, him or Richard.
Yeah.
And I just never saw anything like that before. It was just military,
Yeah.
And Alan always used to say, and he was amazing at it, and I say it now as well, like he always used to say the buck stops with him, but he always, like if there ever was a complaint, like something was salty or something, which never happened, he would always not tell the chef off, because he would always say, it's my fault because I checked it.
Really?
So I remember we had an inspector in once.
Like a health inspector?
A mission inspector. Okay. And I think they found crab bone in their crab. What was it? Was it crab bone? I can't remember.
They were from Michelin.
And Alan didn't But Alan used to prep the crab afterwards, and he didn't tell any of us off. He was like, "It's my fault."
Wow.
And I respect him for that.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the full story was, but it's just a little bit like that.
It's powerful, isn't it? To say, like, you know, I will beast you in a way where I need to, but that stuff, if I've sent it out, like, I can't turn around to you and say, you screwed me over, because I've screwed myself over. Which is incredibly powerful leadership tool. And
definitely.
Which is insane. So they asked you back again, I guess, after the
then
trial wasn't that bad.
Went up and worked. It was just after the Olympics. The American basketball team was still there, actually. I remember seeing all these like size 16 shoes in the back of the Westbury. Being like, wow, mental. And then worked. Bang, that's it.
And how long were you at the Westbury for?
So the first time I was only there for just over a year. So only reason was because I loved it there and stuff, and we had an amazing team because we were all like the same age. We all just moved from our local jobs and we all went there. So we all used to like party on a Saturday night. Yeah. Enjoy London, you know.
'Cause you're like 19, 20 at this point.
20,
is that right?
Yeah. So we went.
So it's a point where like you're not fully a kid anymore, but you're still like London living, and it's exciting.
It's exciting. You moved to London, but you have no money. You can't afford to do anything, but you try and do it. And then there was a chef at the time, who I won't say who he is because he's not even living in the country anymore, but he basically sold me a dream of this kind of events company, what was going to happen. And I went to work there, and Alan told me I was making a mistake, and it lasted 2 months.
Oh, so you're at the Westbury for a year, and this thing came up,
which I thought
it was a magpie.
Complete magpie.
Oh, it didn't work out.
Didn't work out at all. And then
you went back.
He screwed me over. No, not then. And then this person screwed me over, slags me off on Twitter. Loads of other chefs wrote to me and said I'd never make it because I'd screwed him over, but I didn't screw him over. He didn't pay me for 2 months. I couldn't afford my rent.
That's a hard time.
Yeah. So, but then Alan basically said to me, I knew this would happen. But he always said when I went back as head chef like 7 years later, he said to me, I let you go then. I didn't want to stop you because I knew you were going to learn a lesson.
Wow.
Which was cool.
God, that sounds like a really tough time.
It was fine. It's all right.
It's fine now.
It's fine. But
back then...
these things mould you and they make you better, you know, and you have to... Yeah.
Was there a point where you wanted to leave the industry during that? Was it that bad? No. You just like...
I do remember going back home and reading Twitter and being like, I don't think this is fair. And my mum was like, don't retaliate, don't say anything back. Like, well, you haven't paid me for 2 months.
Yeah.
You owe me a lot of money. Yeah, but she was like, just shut up, bite your lip. And
also, for it to get public is difficult.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm sure even people listening have dealt with like personal fallouts and business fallouts and relationship fallouts. They're all private, but it's a lot different. When it gets public, that is a different level of complexity to your confidence, your mindset.
And I was only a 20-year-old boy. Do you know what I mean?
You're a kid.
Like, I'm a kid, yeah.
And that must be... So you bounced back from that, and after that, where did you head?
Yeah, so then I went to... Alan asked me to come back. He's like, you can come back, you can go and work or go and do a job at Marcus Waring, or... I really wanted to work at Hospital Road at the time, but then...
Why did you want to work there?
I don't know, it was just Ramsey, it was Gordon, wasn't it? It was just an amazing place. Maybe I definitely wasn't ready, really thinking about it, but then I heard about the youngest chef with Michelin star in London called Andy McFadden at L'Autre Pierre in Marylebone, and then, I just went there for a job trial, and, then spent the next 3.5 years with Andy working there and at Pied de Terre.
Yeah.
So, super cool.
What was different between that and Alan?
So Alan's was a team of 22 chefs, military, shut on a Sunday. L'Autre Pierre was a neighbourhood restaurant, 4 chefs, 80 covers for lunch, 80 covers for dinner.
Wow.
Insane. And that's when you... So I was happy because I think I had best of both worlds because I had that kind of Uber industry Michelin kind of trained where it's military and there's a lot of chefs and everything's done properly. But then what I learned at L'Autre Pierre was it was about speed, but doing it right.
Right.
You know, so you have to have both because I always say to my chefs now, to be a good chef is like how to drive a car. Sometimes a check comes on, you need to rev it up to 5th gear and you need to be at 70 miles per hour, you need to push.
Sure.
When there's no checks on, you can drop it back down into neutral and just take a breath. Do you know what I mean?
You've got to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Because you can't do that and you're always just on edge.
You're always on edge.
Burn.
Yeah, you have
burn
to.
It quick.
And it's hard to train that as well. There's a lot of chefs now say to me, like, how do I even still do it?
Yeah.
In my kitchen, I watch you when a check comes on and I just move, but it's just what I was trained.
Yeah.
It was like, check on, let's go, we need to go now.
Wow.
Turn it on. So L'Autre Pierre was great restaurant. Made
you
great
3 years?
3.5 years, 3.5 years. So I left as sous chef. So I was Andy's number 2.
Can you just quickly explain again, for those that don't quite know how the kitchen works, the ranks? Because you mentioned it a few times of different ranks and obviously starting in the larder, moving up a little bit. Those 3 years, so where did you, what position were you starting in when you went to that kitchen?
So I went in as a demi chef. So you start from a commis chef, apprentice commis chef, demi-chef to party, senior chef to party, junior sous chef, senior sous chef, head chef, executive chef, and
and onwards. And so where did you start when you moved in? Sorry.
Demi-chef. I'm demi-chef or chef to party. But it wasn't really about positions there because there was only 4 of us. It was everyone did everything.
But you moved up to number 2 by the time you left.
Yeah, maybe just because I stuck it out. There is something about how I just started. It was a hard kitchen.
Right.
I'm not saying it was London's hardest kitchen, but it was highly intense. It was tough. It was busy. We were getting whole animals in every day. So even if I was on the pastry section one day, I used to still have to break down all the meat in the morning. And we used to be quick. We used to time ourselves doing stuff, which sounds really bad, but if you do it right, then it's good as well. Like I used to break down a whole lamb in like 18 minutes and have the sauce on.
Used to like a whole lamb and
used to like get scallops.
Flipping hell.
We used to do a lot of baby artichokes, which is a very Michelin kind of thing to do. Turn artichokes, and we used to have a box each, and we would just race each other doing them, and then judge who had the best ones and stuff. It was kind of that mentality, you know. It was
put some fun into it though as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, put some fun into it, but it was tough. You know, we worked 7 days a week most weeks.
And you did that for 3.5 years.
Yeah, my mum always said I looked like death. She said that was the only time I was worried. She was worried about me. It's a high intense kitchen.
Did the speed of and the intensity, do you think that kind of grew you as who you are quite quickly?
Yeah, because I still have it now. There's a lot of people say to me now, like in the kitchen, like, "Oh, you're quick when you go."
Yeah,
I can do things really quick, but I have to tell myself slow down because I don't want my chefs to do all that what I did as well, because it isn't really the best way to work. And it's high intensity, you know, and we need to have a better work-life balance. And I mean, we didn't even have a rota. He used to say, "Chef, we got a rota." I'd be like, "No, you're on." 7-day-a-week operation. Cheers, thanks a lot.
So that leads you up to basically 2019, there or thereabouts.
No, that's way before. When would that be? 2016.
2016. So after that, where did you end up?
After that, I said to Anne, so basically I didn't take a holiday for about 3 years. And Andy said to me that they would pay me if I went to do a stage somewhere. So a stage is when you go and work somewhere for free.
Right. Why would you do that?
Gain experience.
Right.
So at the time I was reading a book called North, and basically it was a restaurant in Iceland called Dill. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I want to go here. So I paid for the flights myself, stayed in an Airbnb with a couple for 2 months.
Nice.
In their dungeon. And biked in every day to this amazing restaurant called Dill, which is owned by Gunnar.
Why did you want to go there?
And I was just reading a book at the time.
It was just purely because it was different.
It was different. At that time, everyone was, and still was, talking about Copenhagen and Noma. And, you know, Noma was still there, actually. Noma was in Copenhagen there. And I just thought, I want to go somewhere different. I don't want to be that, I went to Noma for a month, put it on my CV kind of thing. Yeah. So I just thought this place sounds cool. And Rene actually was the foreword for the book as well. So he kind of worked with the chef. And it was Iceland's first Michelin-star restaurant. So it was super cool.
And it had the star before you went?
Yeah. And the restaurant was in, and what I learned there was just the Nordic way of life, which I love.
And what is that way of life? What's different?
Super calm.
Yeah.
Just dinner services. No shouting and screaming. Super. Even when I talk about it, you just calm. They have a nice way of life.
Yeah.
They do. We here, and English people, we're kind of like, even though I am it as well, we're kind of like in a rat race, and we're always kind of on edge, and we're always like thinking about the next thing. You, as your job, you're always looking at the next thing. They're just like super calm, happy in life.
How do you think that is in British kitchens and in the London scene? Why is it just because it's the...
I don't think it's just kitchens. I think it's out of it as well.
Yeah, it is, for sure. No, I mean, totally. Like, it is just that city rat race that's kind of spread out from everything else. But I always feel it's the competition, that little bit, where it's like, it kind of, I think it develops from a little bit of insecurity that we all have as Brits, that we want to try and be the leaders and the best and all that kind of stuff. And it means you just put yourself through hell to try and prove yourself to
prove it.
Yourself or someone else or whatever that might look like. So how long were you there for?
2 months. Yeah, so I lived there for 2 months, worked for free, loved it. We used to just do dinner service. Then they used to go out every night and party. And they can party hard, the Icelandics. When I worked there, it was summer, so it's light for 22 hours of the day. So it's super trippy.
That must be quite nice from where you were for 3.5 years. Like light, bright environments.
Yeah. Calmness,
great
nature.
Yeah.
So have you been in Iceland?
No.
Such a beautiful country.
Really?
Yeah, luckily it's my partner's Rachel's favourite country as well. So we try and go every couple of years, and it's an amazing, amazing country. So I loved that. Came back.
Is the food different there? Sorry, and so obviously it's different, but like, was it different styles and techniques and ways as well?
The Nordic, it was the new Nordic cookery style. It was just like catfish was drying out in front of people's houses.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? It was it's just completely different way of life. Amazing products. Rhubarb just grows on the street. So one of the pre-desserts was rhubarb. I know we used to make this like tarragon sugar, and that was literally the pre-dessert, a raw stick of rhubarb. Because when it's winter over there, it's dark for so long of the day.
Yes, yeah.
So like forced rhubarb, which we grow in forced here, we grow in the darkness. So over there, it grows just everywhere.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Flowers everywhere. It was just beautiful.
And did you, after the 2 months, did you feel very reset?
Yeah, no, I did. But I knew I wanted to do something else. So then me and my mate Charlie, who's now head chef for Simon Rogan in London, we were like, I came back and I was like, right, he was at the Ledbury at the time. And we were like, right, we need to go to New York. So that was kind of the other thing. It was like all chefs, they either worked at Noma or they worked at like the French Laundry or Per Se. But again, I wanted to be a little bit different. So I didn't want to work at like 11 Madison or anywhere. So I was like, right, let's go to New York for 2 months. So then we flew out to New York, stayed in Brooklyn in a horrible Airbnb.
Something with you and Airbnb.
Yeah.
We literally do that.
I'm trying to get sponsorship.
Nice.
Well, we landed in JFK and then stupidly we got back in someone's car. They said they were a taxi and we didn't understand how it works there. So basically we got robbed when we just landed in JFK. He dropped us off about miles away in Brooklyn from where we were meant to be staying. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning. There was people on the streets being like, boys, what are you doing? Like, go, you're going to go, what are you doing? We were like, I remember me and Charlie looking at each other like, the guy wouldn't let us out the car unless we gave him like $600. It was like proper scary.
So your first time to New York?
Yeah.
Flipping out.
Yeah, so yeah.
You like throwing yourself into new parts of the world, but just kind of like see what happens.
Yeah, see what happens.
Work it out.
Yeah.
So you were in New York for a couple of months?
New York for a couple of months. Then we starged in loads of amazing restaurants. So I remember that's when I lived in Shepherd's Bush. I remember me and Charlie were at mine on our laptop. We're just emailing loads of chefs like, can we come and spend a day with you? Can we want to do this? Blah, blah, blah. And yeah, that's how it happened.
And you just kept on doing that for a little while?
Yeah, 2 months. We were there for a month and a half maybe in New York.
And so you would go around for kind of week here, week there, etc. What was the favourite place you worked at during the time in New York?
Nomad was cool.
Yeah.
Really amazing chef called James Kent, who actually sadly passed away like 2 months ago suddenly. Okay. So he worked for Daniel Harmer in Madison Park. He was like the first person who wrote back to me. We were literally sitting in my room sending emails and he emailed straight back. And he was like, if you wanted to go here, let me know. So yeah, met him and stuff. So yeah, if I wanted to, that I met him and stuff, as the whole industry was in shock. A few months ago when he passed away.
That's such a shame.
Yeah. But I do really love New York, to be honest.
Did you not?
I think the robbing at the start.
That didn't help. But also going from where you were at home originally, then having quite an interesting start to your London experience, but then that working out nicely, and then being in Iceland, and then to New York, it's quite a lot to happen in quite a short period of time.
Yeah. No, it is. And then we came back to New York, and then I was like, okay, I want to go somewhere else. So then I went to Copenhagen for 2 months. So basically, I took 6 months sabbatical.
Right. Dotting around.
Didn't have any money, just wanted to experience as much as I could. And I worked a month in each in 2 restaurants, one called Amas in Copenhagen and another one called Studio, which are both not there anymore, actually. But Studio was amazing. A guy called Torsten was the head chef, and he just was just happy-go-lucky guy. It sounds quite cheesy, but I quite liked it. When I used to do a staff briefing, he used to like run around and high five everyone. They used to like scream like, yeah. It was very weird as an Englishman. I was like, well, these are high fiving each other. But it was quite endearing, really. It was quite cool. But again, just a nice way of life in Copenhagen. So I did get an offer the job there. And it is my one regret that maybe I should have gone. But
why is there a regret?
It was something I was like, do I do it?
Yeah. Did you came back to London instead?
Yeah, came back to the UK, and my mum was like, Mum and Dad were like, if you want to do it, do it. But I was like, moving by myself, different country. Do you know what I mean?
And it changes the narrative, I guess. What you're trying to do is like really experience stuff, right? And get that there's different environments, different chefs, different skills, different people, different food. Like, whereas staying there for a little while, you know, maybe, how many of these places were kind of Michelin level that you were going around to? Were they
all of them? Yeah,
with that standard?
Yeah. Amas didn't have a star. Never understood why. So it was most probably like a 2-star restaurant. It was Matthew Orlando was amazing.
Yeah.
So he was the head chef at Noma, and he was head chef at Per Se. So he's got like the best CV.
Wow.
For a chef, you know, he worked in the 2 big boys and had that. Yeah, Studio had 1 star. New York, they all had stars. And moved
from there. So you end up back in London, and then this runs up to about 2019. ish.
No, it was still before.
More time to go.
Yeah, well, it's the middle of 2016.
Yeah. So what were you doing for those 3 years between 2016 and 2019?
So the first year, when I came back, I got offered a job at Midsummer House in Cambridge, and I was like, do I want to move to Cambridge? And then my mate was like, well, I'm leaving my sous chef job at Dabbous. I'll put you forward for it. So I went to work for Olly Dabbous at the original Dabbous.
Amazing.
Which was an amazing restaurant. Obviously now he's got Hyde, which is even more amazing. So I was kind of involved in the kind of, not the opening of Hyde, but the kind of pre-opening of the plans, and remember testing the breakfast dishes and stuff. So I worked just over a year with Olly. It was my shortest job. And I loved it. 3 days off a week. I never had that before. It was amazing. He really looked after people. I didn't know what to do, so I used to do agency work 1 day a week. Just get a bit more money. Yeah. Money was good, but I was just like, I can't have 3 days off a week.
Was that what am I gonna? Because you were 7 days in your almost 7 days.
You used to have days off, but it was intense.
Flipping out.
Yeah.
So you were there with him for a year.
For a year, yeah, super cool. Olly was amazing because he owned his own restaurant. I think he was at the time the only Michelin-starred chef who owned his own restaurant in the middle of London. To do that, that's crazy. It's amazing. You know how much rent is and how much. But he was really good. He was like, I always used to think of him as an entrepreneur because he used to like teach us about. I remember one day me and him broke down a tasting menu, and he actually told me how much profit he gets from it. It was like £1.19.
So the first time you kind of seen
the business side of it, you know, like Alan was an amazing chef and really good, but we didn't really look at the business side of stuff, and the lunch we had was just intense and didn't have any time for us to get trained to that. So it was nice that he used to break things down. Remember, he used to show me the council tax and used to show me how much the bin collection used to cost. Just all this stuff.
Were you quite intrigued by that stuff?
Yeah, no, I do. I like numbers. That's the only one thing I was good at was maths. I remember we used to get punnets of strawberries, and we used to count how many strawberries are in a punnet and then work out how much a strawberry was.
Because that is the industry, isn't it? Like, the margins are not...
Well, fundamentally, we're businesses.
Yeah.
You can be nice and shave loads of truffle on stuff and put big dollops of caviar on stuff, but if you're not making money, you can't have a team, you can't pay your team, you can't pay yourself, you know? Yeah. I don't want to be... If one day if I get my own business, there's no way I'm going to work. I don't mind working my backside off, but I want to get paid. And I want to have a good living, you know? Yeah. I don't want to be a poor broken chef.
No, because unfortunately there's a lot of that happen just because the way the industry's been thrown about over the last couple of years and kind of last couple of decades.
Yeah.
So you were there working with him for about a year.
Yeah, it was about 13 months, and then Alan got in touch with me. I really spoke to him for a couple of years, really, and then he was like, I'm looking for a head chef.
Did he know you were back in London?
Yeah. We still kept in touch.
Nice.
I went in there a few times and stuff, and he was like, I'm looking for a new head chef. Would you be keen? And for me, it was biggest honour ever. It was like my favourite kitchen I ever worked in.
Wow.
It was to go there from when I went there as a commis chef, and to be asked to go back as a head chef, and I was 24.
That's big.
So yeah, then I was head chef of a 1 Michelin-starred restaurant with 4 rosettes, and we had 18 chefs when I was there.
The pressure of that kind of ask, I guess, from him, were you up for it right away, or were you a bit hesitant on that ask?
Not really. You don't think about it at the time, do you? You think, okay, I've got this now, I need to make the most out of it. You know, and that's hopefully what I did, and that's when I really found as a chef my own creative, the way I dress a plate, for instance, is still quite similar today, because I learned that myself, being there, the way we cooked things, the way we tested things, and it made me a better manager as well. A lot of the chefs from the Westbury are still with me today.
That's cool.
So
that's really nice.
Freddie, my head chef's been with me 9 years. Josh, my sous chef's been with me same time.
Wow, that's really cool. That's great. So you were doing that from 2017 to 2019, basically? Yeah. And then what made you move on from that?
So then one day, a regular was eating, and he asked to meet Alan, but Alan wasn't there. So I went out.
The next best thing.
Well, next best thing, yeah. Younger version. So I went out, and it was normal. Guess you want to say hello. The Westbury is a very fine dining restaurant, you know, big carpet on the floor.
Yeah.
Big cheese trolley wheeled around, big tablecloths, what costs so much money. It was just proper luxury fine dining, you know. Went and spoke to him, and then the guy was looking at me, and then the guy was like, this is the hotel manager of the Dorchester.
Wow.
And I was like, all right.
Cool.
I was like, yeah, nice. I'd never been to Dorchester, didn't know nothing about it. I was like, yeah, nice one. And then he gave me he asked for a card, so I gave him a card, and then he emailed me the next day being like, do you want to come in for a chat? And I was like, all right, yeah. And he always laughs about it now, but I literally just rocked in with my dirty black chef trousers. I put a an All Saints jumper on top of my chef jacket, and I just bowled into the Dorchester. I got stopped at the doors. Yeah, I remember. But I didn't. That's the bit I didn't know about, being that uber professional.
Yeah.
I understood about being professional inside the kitchen, but I didn't know that about outside the kitchen, you know.
But it's a very nice way to be in some ways, because like, if all of a sudden you're like, you know, you change your personality because of who that person is, and then the Dorchester, the prestigiousness of that, and you know, all of a sudden you turn up and be someone who you're not. That's not what they want.
Yeah, that's not what you want. Yeah,
I mean, which I think is, you know, it's important to respect those things and understand, you know, the industry.
Yeah.
So there's something incredibly nice about the fact that you're not like, oh right, I'm going to be someone who I'm not, just to try and get opportunity and make the difference. You know what I mean?
No, Robert, the GM at the time, he always used to say to me, I think he used to just like smile at me all the time, and I used to be like, what's he smiling at me for? But I think he just loved the way I was talking about stuff. Yeah. And he always used to say to me, never change. Never like change and become, not corporate, I don't know what the word is. Never, like you just said, don't be someone you are, like, because your ideas are good. Yeah. I mean, you just need to fine tune, not swear so much.
So you walk into the Dorchester in your scrubs for it?
In my scrubs, yeah.
And what was the conversation?
He just said, are you the chef who cooked me food last night? They were eyeing me up and down. I was a bit like,
did you have any idea
I was like,
wanted?
What do you guys want? Like, what are you doing? And then they were like, we're looking for a chef to take on. So Alan DeCasse used to run both restaurants, so the Freestar, and he used to run the grill. Yeah. They were like, we're looking at putting a new chef into the grill. And I was like, okay. I remember I being like, why do you want me? I was happy. I was head chef of a 1-star, just starting to make a little bit of a name for myself inside the industry, not on a more bigger picture. And I didn't really like the room too much either, to be honest. Used to have yellow tablecloths, thank you. And yeah, so then these stories happened for about 9 months, and it was okay. And I said to them, I was like, I'm not going to come here and just use this branding, use this restaurant. Yeah. If you want to do something together, then they said, okay, you make a business plan. So me and Rachel made a business plan that she was amazing at. And my idea was, okay, well, let's try and be something a little bit different. Let's try and be the first modern British grill. Because we did questionnaires, we asked like 100 people, what does a grill mean to them? And a lot of the answers were like overcooked meat and veg.
Which is kind of true.
She was quite, well, not all of them, but yeah.
Like, if you asked a lot of people going to London and said, you're going to go to a grill, like...
Yeah, it doesn't sound that amazing. So I was like, why don't we position it? Why don't we be the first modern British grill? And then they loved the idea. Then we moved forward. And then they basically put money in, and then we kind of rebranded. I got to decide what we were doing, and I was heavily involved. I was heavily involved with the first branding. As I've always been, they've always put me massively involved with it. They've always treated it like it is my baby.
Had you told Alan at this point? What was
no,
flipping out.
Yeah. He was shocked. Yeah, no one's happy. We were happy there and stuff. Yeah. But in hindsight, the Westbury's not there anymore, so I did get out at the right time. Yeah, so then we just kept talking. But now, going back to the modern British grill, but now a lot of the hotels do it. Yeah. There's about 5 modern British grills now in London. And we were the kind of first one to do it, which I'm super proud of, really. Yeah. So then I started in July. Used to have to, July the 1st, 2019. That's the date we started. So... How
much work is going on to that point? Is it 6-9 months?
Well, nearly a year. Really? Just short of a year.
And did you... left the Westbury?
No. So I was still working on both. Yeah.
Wow. God, that must be an intense time.
But did it, didn't you? You have to, you know.
I like how you like your weather.
Putting together a business plan, ideas.
Yeah. And so the 1st of July 2019 is your soft launch?
No. So I went there and I had to basically run the old grill for 3 months.
Right.
And that was when I was getting the team together. I already had the team together. So Adam, who was my head chef before Freddie, who's now moved on to Iceland, and he's most probably going to win a star this year, most amazing, talented chef. He worked with me for 8 years, on and off. I got him at the Westbury, I got him into the Hand and Flowers. Yes. Tom Kerridge's pub. And then when I got the Dorchester job, I said to him, look, we're going to do this. I want you to be my number 2. And then Freddie was the sous chef. He's now the head chef, and he was at the Westbury. Josh was there. And it all kind of, it fell in the right path because a lot of people had kind of left the Westbury already. Right. So it wasn't like I took anyone. I didn't stitch over Alan. There was no bad feelings and stuff. It was just...
The Westbury was still there at the time.
Yeah, it was still there. It only really shut during COVID, yeah. So putting together a team, then we had to run the old grill. We had to kind of change mentalities in the kitchen, how they were working, running there.
Is that quite a big challenge for you kind of coming in, there's new guys in here, we're mixing some stuff up? That's not easy to do.
No, it's not easy. And I see you get a lot of, who's this guy, who's this kid? You know, it was a tough time as well because obviously the hotel really wanted to PR it, and then I was PR'd as the youngest chef at the Dorchester.
Yeah, what was that like for you, really?
It was overdone a little bit, but I understood that was the narrative and that was it. And that's when I started getting trolled all the time.
Yeah.
Which was super strange because a lot of people were writing to me. A lot of them were chefs as well. So it really shows you how fickly sometimes people can be. Chefs from like, I don't know, somewhere else in the country and stuff, writing to me, he's way too young to be a chef. Why are you employing this kid? He's never ready to be a head chef. But I was already 2.5 years a head chef of a 1-star and run an amazing restaurant with a great team. So it was quite interesting. But again, you just learn not to say anything and just let everyone was like, he'll be there 6 months, won't be able to hack it.
Did that ever get inside your head?
Not really. No,
just kept on going.
Folks pushed it out really, and then just focused on what we did. And then we shut for a few weeks, had a refurb, redid up the restaurant and made the pudding bar, bought the soft serve machine, all these ideas, what I had, all the kind of investment we put into it, got the team proper together. And then we had a 2-week soft launch in October 2019, then we opened the 12th of November 2019. So this year we're 5 years old.
Wow.
And and then obviously we had an amazing first few months. Got 9 out of 10 from Giles Corrin in the Times, amazing Evening Standard reviews, 5 out of 5 in other reviews. Loads of industry would come in, restaurant was busy as hell, and then obviously March 2020 happened.
And the world changed. Before we get onto that, I've got a question I want to ask you is about the leadership style you wanted to have going into this kind of new thing. Because you mentioned it a few times as you've gone through various different restaurants, short-term, long-term, whatever that looks like, and you had different experiences in the leadership style and the way the restaurants run. When you started setting up the grid and those kind of planning phases, did you have it in your head how you wanted to run the whole thing? And what was your focus on that?
Yeah, I told everyone it needs to be nice, need to create our own family.
Yeah.
But it is my job to create the narrative and create the mentality, really. And still to this day, you know, I don't like all bitching in kitchens and front of house and stuff.
Yeah.
We make sure the front of house, we're all one team. It's not some restaurants run front of house do this, back of house do that. You know, we're all one big team. Obviously, there's still fights every now and then and stuff. Same as any family. But yeah, I just always wanted it to be a nice place to work in, you know. And I think we have done that. There's a lot of chefs work with me for a long time. For instance, I got a chef leaving me next month and she's going traveling in South America, and she was like, I don't really want to leave because I love it here.
Yeah,
but
so nice.
I've got this amazing opportunity to go traveling in South America, and but I know one day if I get another restaurant, if I do something else, like I have another restaurant obviously in Switzerland as well, then they know that they can come back and
there's always that connection.
There's always that connection. You know?
Never burn the bridge. There you go. Smashed it. So going into, like, you were mentioning about kind of overdoing it in those early stages before COVID hit. So you're putting a lot of energy into it. COVID hits. What was that period like? I know we don't want to talk about COVID till the cows come home. Yeah. Like, what was that period like for you? Obviously quite terrifying.
I thought it was amazing, really, because I really used it as, I've got an amazing opportunity. I opened a restaurant 5 months ago. We've been running 5 months, and now I actually get to shut it, rethink about what we were doing. So we had loads of meetings, loads of Zoom meetings about what we doing right and what we doing. There was a lot of things I was doing, which what was the benefit to the guest? You know, for instance, I'm pretty good at making potato souffles. They're little souffles, crisp up, and sometimes they're not crispy as hell. But I was trying to put 10 on a plate, and they take a long time to make.
Yeah,
what's that bringing to the actual dish? All I'm doing is stressing out the chefs. You know, so
it's just so detailed, isn't it? Just the way you're thinking about little bits. So COVID, you feel like COVID gave you that chance to sort of
streamline. No, it's not even streamline, is it? Streamline things, but it is almost streamlining. It was just like, okay, how do we make this better? And actually, by simplifying stuff, you actually make stuff better.
Yeah.
Was I overworking the team? Most probably. They were still getting their 3 days off, but then when the 4 days they were in, we were pushing and we were busy, and maybe I was trying to overdo it with the food because I knew I had to show off in a weird way because I was getting trolled. I was getting told that I was the youngest chef at the Dorchester. I needed to make sure we stamped. Do you know what I mean? We came onto the scene hot, as you would like to say, kind of thing.
Yeah. Did you have the pressure was all external or internal as well? You know, like how does from the team and everyone around you, like your team that you built and stuff, like they can see you're getting the trolling and all that kind of stuff. Were you just all still focused on what you're doing in those reports?
They never found out about that really. I never I think Rachel was the only one who I would have told when I went home and showed her my messages and stuff, and it wasn't that bad. I'm sure there's a lot worse out there, but of course it isn't nice, and it shouldn't. I think we are getting better as a world, aren't we, where we're actually talking about it more and being like, why are you're a 50-year-old bloke who like works in a pub in Kent, why are you talking like, I don't know, I'm just making that up, but but why are you writing to a 26-year-old and making him feel like rubbish? Yeah, do you know what I mean? We should be promoting, we should be helping each other. And it wasn't 100%. Just coming from the hospitality industry, it was coming from other people, random things, I'm sure if you Google some bits, it's just, why be like that? We need to promote and support each other.
Oh, it was jealousy at the end of the day. Like, that's the reality of it. I know you probably don't want to say that, but it is just all absolute jealousy and trolling and trying to bring people down. It's just like, I've had a small experience of that and starting my company when I was young, and people in a playground, or people, friends that you thought were friends, and people just go, oh, it's not going to work out. Like, it does stick with you. Like, sometimes, like we said at the start of this, like pettiness drives you, but I think that you're right, that I think the world is changing a little bit in a nice way, where actually it's like, you do you and I'll do me, and let's see what happens.
Let's see what goes. Yeah.
So COVID was obviously a hard time to hospitality. A lot of people left hospitality, right? Did you guys have that experience as well?
At the time, we only had Dennis, who was an Italian chef, and he went back home. Luckily, I had a lot of British and Irish chefs, and still do to today. But it was tough. Yeah, everyone was it was hard for the chefs. They were at home, especially if they'd moved to London. They were kind of youngish, living by themselves. So as a hotel and as a collection, we really grouped together and made sure staff were at the forefront. So every other day, I used to have to ring everyone. We used to have to write down the minutes and the conversation, not minutes, but write down how everyone's doing. Do we need to support some people? But then we developed on the restaurant, we had big team meetings where we were saying, okay, what's right? And we got everyone's input.
Yeah. What was the best thing to come out at that time for you then? So you were talking about it resetting everything and changing the way you're thinking. Like, was it a different restaurant when you reopened?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was about reducing what we were kind of doing and making it more better, making it more consistent.
Yeah.
I actually think it was the best time for us, because no restaurant or chef gets that opportunity to 5 months.
Doesn't happen.
Oh, should we open for 5 months and then shut? And then let's work out what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. Normally, you learn on the job,
Because how long were you actually shut for? 6 months or something? I mean, it was such a blur, isn't it?
Yeah, we shut, and then I started doing our MIY, so it was make it yourself.
Yeah.
So that was keeping me busy, so I had to work on the branding of it. We had to make all the recipes. I was doing the recipes at home. We were packing boxes. Nice. Me and like two of the chefs were going in and packing boxes and sending out beef Wellingtons, and I was driving them around in the hotel's car. I remember going to people's houses and they were like, "You're Tom," delivery boy as well. But it was good. We just had to keep ourselves busy and keep ourselves in it, And luckily, we didn't lose any chefs.
Amazing.
We kept everyone together.
Yeah. And reopening, did it feel like a fresh start?
Yeah, it did. Then we reopened. So we reopened for a bit, didn't we? Then I can't remember anymore.
It's such a blur, isn't
it? It out, yeah.
But when you were, I guess, back to a little bit of normality, a little bit back to what it was.
10 o'clock curfew, weren't it?
Yeah.
I remember the 10 o'clock curfew, which was crazy, really, because...
You guys, it must be a nightmare.
It was insane. We were doing like 70 covers, but in 2 hours. And it was... And then empty restaurant.
Yeah.
And then all the tubes were packed, and it was all just a bit strange, wasn't it?
Spreading the whole lot.
Then we shut again, didn't we? And then when we could eat outside, I said to the hotel, I knew there was a room upstairs, a suite, which they didn't really use, and it had a lovely balcony, big balcony. So I was like, why don't we use this as a restaurant? So then we did the Dorchester rooftop. So me and my team were up there painting the wooden floor, getting it all ready to go, and putting up barbecues up there, cooking in bedrooms, and... The idea was, let's do 40 for lunch, 40 for dinner. Let's just slowly get the team back into a routine, making sure we're looking after them. And then I went on Saturday Kitchen to promote it, and I basically accidentally said it would all be for free. It was a joke. And we ended up doing about 400 covers a day.
400 covers a day in the rooftop?
Oh, it was insane.
How long was that for? A couple of months?
I did it for 3 weeks, and then Alan DeCass took it after me, and then the hotel loved it. Kept investing money into it, and then we kept it open for like a year, really.
Wow. So I guess the where we are today, obviously sat in 2024, over the last couple of years in particular, and a bit more normality in the last sort of 12, 24 months. Like, how do you think that the London scene for food has really changed? The restaurant scene in London, with everything that we've just spoken about, from the Brexits, the COVIDs, you moved around a lot by that point, etc. Like, what's really changed in this space?
I think it's a hard question, really. It's such a shame because a lot of restaurants are closing. There's no point hiding about it. We do need to get better as a country, supporting restaurants and local businesses and eating in them. But we are stuck in this middle now where, and I do it. You have a cheeky night off, but instead of going out for dinner, you get a Deliveroo. How many Deliveroos I read something the other day about how many Deliveroos are delivered in the nation every day.
Yeah.
Sadly, that's stopping people coming. Obviously, we still need it, but it's stopping people coming to restaurants. We do need to get better at educational food here as well, because food prices have gone drastically up. But then we've got a lot of customers, not our customers, but a lot of people saying that restaurants are too expensive, but they're still not making money. They're not hitting their margins, Yeah. Tom Kerridge has been very outspoken about that's the whole steak thing, and it costs money.
Yeah. He got slated for that whole steak price add-on thing, didn't he?
But even with that price, you're not really making a lot of money on it. By the time you pay your rent, pay your staff wages have gone up, and they should. So that means you need to make more money.
Yeah.
But I actually generally think prices of menus haven't drastically gone up that much.
As much as people are kind of claiming they have been.
Yeah, where food prices for me as a chef really have. I remember when I was at L'Autre and I used to start doing the orders, a block of butter used to be like 70p. And now a block of butter is like £2.90.
Flipping hell. Because just for those, again, that don't necessarily know, you're talking a lot about the margin and the economics of the business, of restaurants. Like, the margins are tiny. Like, absolutely minuscule. And like, everyone knows that make it on the alcohol and the booze and the wine and all that kind of stuff, but that doesn't make a massive difference. Like, it doesn't mean that you can't charge what you need to charge for this stuff. Yeah. And is that what the problem in the space you think is, and why a lot of them are closing, is just because the economics don't add up?
Not as busy.
Yeah.
I know a few chefs who are closing at the moment, they're just saying their numbers have just dropped. August is tough for us. Our numbers aren't looking fantastic, but you have to keep them, like we said earlier, you just got to keep pushing, keep relevant.
And how do you think that's going to change? Like, how can restaurants, and how are you guys looking at trying to get through that? Obviously, you've got the Dorchester behind you, and there's that clientele that will come through, but other restaurants that and what you see in their space, like how there's so many of them now that are really turning to how they market their places. It's completely different now. Like, everyone's seen how Fallow now market the restaurant. It's like a revolution in certain wells, right? But like, that's what they're having to do, not just to grow, but to survive. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Well, social media is a massive thing about restaurants now, isn't it? And you do have to invest in it and keep on top of it as well. Like, I do all my own social media by myself, but you do see I take bookings daily on my social media.
Really?
That is, people see, my girlfriend's the same, Rachel will see someone online, I want to go there.
Yeah.
So you really have to keep relevant. It's all do loads of photo shoots, loads of social media.
Yeah.
Keep it moving, coming up with creative ideas which work.
Yeah.
Keep shouting, but keep them positive. There is a lot of bad, but I always generally think PMA, I always say, positive mental attitude.
Love it. What do you think it takes for restaurants to really be successful? We spoke there about surviving and the downsides of that, but the successful restaurants that have kind of grown, been gone, wherever they might be, like, what is it that makes restaurants successful in your eyes?
Just like what we said, really, relevant. The most important thing is a successful restaurant is to have happy guests. Doesn't matter about inspectors and accolades. It matters about full restaurants, really happy guests. And that's kind of my job now. My job nowadays is actually to be on the floor more than it is in the kitchen, making sure I'm saying hello to the guests. I understand my name is on the door.
Yeah.
And sometimes people want to see me. I don't know why, but that is my job, because that is, people want experiences, and that gives an experience, So we give kitchen tours to most of the guests who come in. So I always say to the front of house, it's a free experience. It doesn't cost us money, but to the guest, it's amazing.
And they can't buy it. So
yeah, exactly. Give them something they
can't buy. Do you remember your hardest day at the grill so far?
Boxing Day, 2019.
That came in easy. Why was it the hardest day?
Oh, it's horrible. I'll tell you off camera. The chefs had a good night. The chefs and the front of house had a good night the night before.
Enough said. Look, you mentioned very briefly you've got obviously another restaurant that you've been working on and developing out. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so it happened quite naturally. Another hotel group in Switzerland called Coombe Hotel in St. Moritz reached out. They've got this amazing room called Sunny Bar. Basically, it's a private members club during the day to the press to run. So it's been there since 1885, made by the British. but they've never had a British chef. So they looked around to try and find a young, modern, up-and-coming kind of chef who was kind of still at a high level. And obviously the two brands kind of fit each other.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing honour to... So I've just done my first season, and now we're getting ready to do this season, which is going to be really great. Because I learned a lot this season. It was a lot of travelling for me, though. I was travelling every week, back and forth.
Wow.
So it was a lot.
You said you learned a lot. What was that?
Different market.
Right.
Quite interesting as well, was that a lot of Germans, Swiss, Italians, they all have this perception that British food's really rubbish.
Right.
I really forgot about it, and I didn't really know about it.
Kind of rings a bell, and you said it.
Yeah, and it's really like, why would you... British food?
Yeah.
It's horrible. So, but I actually generally think, like, Great Britain is actually up there in the top 5 in the world nowadays, you know. Yeah. Really, we're
especially
so strong.
the modern side.
Yeah. So, because we're such a diverse company as well, we've got the best Chinese restaurant to the best Sri Lankan restaurant to the best Indians and to the best anything, really. We've got a bit of everything, which makes us really unique in a good way. So it always makes me laugh, because we always say that the hardest thing is trying to get people to think that they like British food.
And what was the plan? I guess alongside that, you still got the grill and you're balancing those two. What are the future plans for the grill?
To keep moving forward, obviously we just had a refurb a couple of years ago, and we changed it to the Grill by Tom Booton. So the grill's never changed names in 93 years since the hotel's been open. So we will go down in legacy. Then this year's super exciting because it's 5 years. Yeah. So we've got loads of activations, which I can't talk about yet, but stay tuned, which are going to be really cool. Doing some really fun, really like what you don't think we would do as well, things. We just want to be fun and
different,
cool events and experiences that we're just talking about, and really cool stuff. And then we do a lot of stadium cooking. Always do a lot of events and functions, so I keep the team busy.
It sounds like you do. I mean, final question for me, and I was going to ask you the very classic, like, what does it take to be a young chef? But I am going to change that now. What do you think it takes to, quote unquote, make it in the industry?
Just be a sponge, head down, just stamina. Do you know what I mean? It's a long career. Yeah, it's a long. Everyone's career is long, isn't it? It's retirement age now, 65. Yeah. So it's a long time. So just keep your head down, be a sponge, learn from mistakes, make mistakes. I always think making mistakes is more important than going to work somewhere which is perfect, whatever perfect is. But actually learning, working on yourself, moving forward. But consistent. I just said loads of words there.
You did, but it was all incredibly valuable. Mate, thanks so much for coming.
No worries.
Been an absolute pleasure, and it's been amazing to listen to your journey, because I'm sure you get it all the time, but for a 30-something-year-old to have done what you've done so quickly and in so many different ways, and now to see both the restaurants doing so many amazing things is insane. So congrats from my side. And thanks so much for coming on, and I'm excited to come down to the restaurant and eat, but also excited to see where it goes and all those activations. And congrats on 5 years, and congrats to the team as well. No, but mate, thanks so much, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Cheers.
Pleasure.